It got cut off at different times.
Perfect. Okay, so thank you. So again, we're holding verse 30. We are discussing this out of timeline, and it's not talking about chronological historical order. Verse 30 goes back to the experience right when the Jews miraculously split the Jordan River, Yeshua with the ark. And verse 30 happens as Oz Yivna Yeshua Mizbeach, Joshua goes and builds an altar La Hashem Elokei Yisrael, to the God of the Jewish people. Bahar Avel, by Mount Avel. There were two mountains that we're going to see what happens now. Moses had told Joshua to do this, and they're just coming through splitting the Jordan River, and they're going on the mountain, and a major thing is going to take place on this mountain. They're going to accept responsibility for each other. That means that if one Jew sins, everyone else is going to be affected by this. And that's why after this happens, though we read the story already in the Navi, that one Jew stole money from what needed to be donated, everybody was affected, according to some of the commentaries. This is a promise that they're taking together. Again, to strengthen the Jews with the Torah. You just came into Israel, not just have you heard it from Moses on the eastern side of the Jordan River before he passed away, but now you're hearing it. The first thing we want to do is have this major, magnificent experience to take place. And as I was saying before, that the historians believe that it's likely, possible, that they actually have this altar that we just read about in verse 30. They know where this is. This is Har Gerizim and Har Evel, two mountains. It's north of the city of Shechem, of Nablus, of Shechem. And over there is where the story is taking place. Verse 31, Kasher Tziva Moshe Eved Hashem. In the Navi, he's now referencing the Torah, just like Moses, the servant of God, commanded Bnei Yisrael, the Jewish people. Kakasu b'Sefer Torahs Moshe, as it's written in the Torah of Moshe. What did it say there? And he's quoting now from the Torah that we learned about in our Chumash class. Avanim shleimois, whole stones. I want you to take whole stones. Asher lehein nifalein barzel, that no sword was used to chisel them or cut them. I want complete big whole stones. Vayalu olav oilois laHashem, and use those big stones and to bring sacrifices on those. So they erected an altar with big full stones, not metal cut. I think the reason is we're going to learn by the actual Mizbech and the Beis HaMikdash that they're not going to use metal. They don't like metal because metal is swords. Metal is made to kill, and the Mizbech is made to bring peace. But Yalu, so don't cut the stones, take whole stones. And they brought sacrifices on these stones. And again, if you Google this and if you look this up, they claim to perhaps know, historians think that they might know the area and might even know these stones that they brought sacrifices on in that area. Okay, now Rashi says, now I don't understand exactly actually how they would have those stones there, and I'm not sure 100% how this thing works, because we're going to see now what they do with these stones. Maybe there was two sets of stones, I'm not sure, but let's see the next verse. They take those stones and wrote on those stones as Mishnas Torahs Moshe, the law of the Torah of Moshe. They go and they write on the stones. Now, I believe we learned this when we learned the Chumash, that there was a plaster. According to some of the commentaries, they didn't engrave it in the stone itself, but they added a plaster on top of the stone. And they wrote on it the Torah. Now, how much Torah did they write on it? This is the big debate among the commentaries, exactly what was written. Some claim the whole Torah. I think even 70 languages they translated the Torah into. So it was like, but even just having one time the whole Torah on these stones is amazing. How are you supposed to write the Torah on all these the whole Torah on these stones? So I think there's another commentary, Reb Sadia Goyen, who writes they just wrote the list of the 613 mitzvahs. They didn't write the entire Torah. I believe another commentary says that they only wrote the fifth book, when Moses repeats the whole Torah to them in the fifth book, not all five books, just the fifth book. But then some of the commentaries say no, it was all five books of the Torah was written on these stones. The bottom line is they wrote on the stones. At least some part, if not all, of the Torah was written on these stones. Again, this is like a magnificent event to remind the Jews that why they're conquering Israel and why they're meriting the land, and not to stay strong and be good Jews. So they all come miraculously together and they build this altar and they bring sacrifices on them just as soon as they get into Israel. And then they take these stones and they write the whole Torah down, all in a very miraculous short amount of time, all before the nightfall, all within a crazy distance, 40 miles away. As before the Jewish people. And what do they do with these stones afterwards? Rashi says they after making it an altar, they then peeled off the lime and brought them to Gilgal, and they brought these stones to another city of Gilgal, which is another area. Anyway, Chal Yisrael Uskena, verse 33. All the Jewish people and the elders were there at this magnificent event. Vishoitrim, Vishoifta, the officers, the judges, Oimdim Mizeh Mizeh, La'ari Neget HaKohanim. All stood facing the Kohanim. So there was a whole group of Kohanim, and Halevim Noisi Arim Bris Hashem, and then there was a group of the elder respectable Levites. So again, there was a perimeter. There was the ark in the middle. The Kohanim surrounded kind of the ark, and around the Kohanim stood the elderly Levites, and facing them, opposite them, were these two mountains, Mount Gerizim and Mount Ava. And on the mountain was everybody, Keger, Ke'ezrach, the converts, and the people that lived, that moved, that became part of the Jewish people. One of the commentaries say a lot of people converted to the Jewish people as the Jews were traveling through the desert, the miracles. People wanted to join the Jewish people. So the natives, the converts, Chetzioi, El Mul Har Gerizim, half of the nation, 6 of the 12 tribes, stood on one mountain, the Mount Gerizim, and right next to it was another mountain, V'chetzi Mul Har Eval, and the other one stood on the other side, Eval, and this was kind of like in the middle. This was like in the middle between the two mountains. Exactly how Moses commanded the Jewish people before he passed away. That they should first turn to the one mountain and give the blessings. Blessed is the man who does not make a graven molten image. And then they would turn to the other mountain and say, cursed is the man. First blessings and then curses. So this beautiful ceremonious event. They got all the Jewish people on 2 mountains, and they said, pray blessings on one and cursings on the other one. Commit to the, and there was 12 different curses and blessings that will take place. Commit to the Torah, accept the Torah and the mitzvahs. And they have the ark in the middle, the Kohanim around them, the Levites around them, and they're standing in between the 2 mountains giving these blessings, facing the Jewish people that are on the mountains. And then afterwards, they went on to read different sections in the Torah. Some say all the mitzvahs. They said, there was nothing lacking. Yeshua went over all the basic laws that the Jewish people need to know. The women, the men, and the children, and the converts that walk among you. Everybody was there at the ceremonious event. And this was an amazing ceremony that took place as soon as the Jews entered Eretz Yisrael. That is the end of today's Navi. Any questions or comments?